Alright guys, you're joining me down in the GameSpot breakout area today to have a look at Resistance Retribution. Now this is pretty much the big title, the big first title from Sony's self-proclaimed year of the PlayStation Portable, and it's without doubt the most technically advanced PlayStation Portable game we've ever seen. And it's also a pretty good game in its own right, if you can put up with the horrible English accents. So let's go and take a look at the three main components of the game: the single player, the multiplayer, and the connectivity with PlayStation 3. Alright, so Resistance Retribution fills in the gap between the first game in the series and the second game. It's set mostly in England, and it takes place in 1951, just for those who are keeping track of the chronology of the series. You play this character, this Englishman called James Grayson, and his brother is captured by the Chimera and then tortured and killed. And he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder, as old Grayson, about this. So he sets about trying to take down the Chimera, destroying a lot of the centres where they're taking the humans, and just running on a bit of a rampage. He's court-martialed, he's sentenced to death, but then, wouldn't you believe it, some other military guys come in and decide to save him and take him on a special mission. So while Resistance Retribution is a third-person action game rather than a first-person action game like the Resistance 1 and 2 on the PlayStation 3, it does retain most of the hallmarks of the series, namely the really imaginative weapons. The only downside that I found as an Englishman is James Grayson's horrible Mary Poppins, shine your shoes governor accent, which it will grate on any Englishman after the very first cutscene.
We got a live one in here!
No, Johnny. It's his brother.
You know the regs. We can't let him live.
Alright, so in what can only be described as an orgy of Sony interconnectivity here, you can actually link up your PlayStation Portable to the PlayStation 3 and Resistance 2 if you've got a copy of that. And you can unlock some really cool features in Resistance on the PlayStation Portable. So here on the PlayStation 3 screen, we've got the option to infect Resistance Retribution on the PlayStation Portable, which means that the character of Grayson is actually infected in the game. He can now breathe underwater. He's got a regenerative life, which means you can go and find out different areas in the game that you couldn't before, which is really cool. You can collect these infected documents, and if you collect all 20, you can actually unlock plasma grenades. There's also a new gun. It's all really cool. You can unlock lots of content by using your PlayStation 3. So on to the multiplayer now. Resistance Retribution is really impressive in terms of its multiplayer features. Fans of the series may remember that Insomniac pretty much revolutionized the PlayStation 3's multiplayer capabilities by offering 60-player multiplayer for the PlayStation 3, and while it would be an amazing feat to include that on the PlayStation Portable, they've done a pretty good job of it. That you can play in ad hoc mode, so you can play local wireless multiplayer, but probably most people will play on infrastructure mode, which means you can actually jump online with your PlayStation Portable and go and play people from all around the world. I've been playing a few games of this in the office today, and I'm really impressed with it so far. It's got 5 multiplayer modes, most of which should be familiar to regular online gamers. It's got Team Deathmatch, Capture the Flag. So the one mode that's really doing it for me, though, that's quite unique to this is the Assimilation Mode, in which the human players have to stay alive as long as possible, racking up points until they're killed by one of the alien forces, and then they're turned into one of the aliens. It reminds me a little bit of the Counter-Strike Zombie mod, which some players might know from the PC, but it's a really great mode. It's unique to Resistance, and it's really fraught when you're playing online. A lot of the human players are just trying to defend themselves to the last while they're defending this onslaught of alien attacks. But the other modes are great as well, and there are 5 multiplayer maps. I have to say that playing it on the PlayStation Portable online is still a relatively rare occurrence. I remember seeing it in Wipeout, but I've thoroughly enjoyed it, and it's probably one of my favourite modes in Resistance Retribution.